Hello and welcome to Chinballs Gaming. I am Scop and this is WWZ. So Saber have recently dropped the long-awaited Horde mode XL on us, and this is a mode for next-gen consoles and PC only. So Saber have inadvertently confirmed to us that the deck is either a next-gen console or indeed a PC. Which one it is, who knows, you decide. So I decided to give it a try. So I decided to run the in-game benchmarking tool. So here it is running on low and ultra, both the default settings, just to give you an idea what the quality is like and the performance. And as you can see, the ultra does look pretty damn good, and the low looks a bit like a PS2 era game. But of course it does run at a much higher frame rate than ultra. I'm pretty sure that last gen consoles ran at a max of 30 FPS, so either way we are doing a lot better than the PS4 and the Xbox One. I am not sure, however, how the quality compares to the previous console. Either way, it still looks great on deck. On a small screen like this, it looks perfectly fine. Low is a little too low for me, so I will be wanting to put those settings up later, but I will be testing both in the Horde mode XL in just a few seconds. So with the low settings, we are getting a minimum of 75 frames a second and an average of 90. And with Ultra, we're getting a low of 49 frames a second and a high of 57. So let's see how that compares in-game on the XL mode. So here is the Horde mode XL on the Ultra quality settings. And as you can see, the frame rate is already quite a bit lower than what we previously saw in the benchmarking tool, which makes sense because the XL mode is only available on the new systems and PC, whereas the benchmarking tool is basically the original game. So at this point I decided just to cap this at 30 FPS, and yes, it's actually pretty stable at Ultra on 30, so if you wanted to play this game at Ultra settings and cap it to 30, then you certainly can. However, I'm not quite happy playing at 30 FPS. Having played this, it made me realise how much I hate 30 FPS, quite honestly. So let's see what we can do with the low settings. So I'm a bit further into the game at this point. This is wave 11. And as you can see, we are not quite hitting that 60 FPS target. We are often dropping into the 50s. There are often some spikes even lower also. But it is quite playable, but it does seem that 60 FPS is out of the question for this game mode. Unless you want to start messing with FSR and resolution scaling and things, which I didn't bother with. Maybe you'll get better results, but I don't like FSR in this game. It looks a bit too blurry. It's not for me. So, back to the drawing board. Let's try some different settings. So I'm going to call these settings medium plus, because basically everything is on medium except for the texture quality, which I've rammed up to high. Now texture quality shouldn't make any difference to the FPS at all, because we have got a butt ton of memory, and that is what texture quality really needs. It just needs a lot of memory. It doesn't really affect frame rate or anything like that. But let's have a look. So with these settings, we're hitting an average of 69 frames a second with a low of 52 in the benchmarking tool. So again, we're not going to be hitting 60, but let's give it a try anyway in the Horde mode XL and see how it fares. So at this point I was at wave 22 and this was a wave XL, so this is where the most amount of zombies will appear on screen at the same time. And as you can see, we're roughly around 40 and it's dropping into the 30s quite often. I did play this game for like an hour and a half or something. at this settings, and to be honest, even though it was fluctuating quite a lot, I found it very, very playable. This game looks amazing on the deck and it plays amazing. It is a great game, and I'm very happy that Sabre have decided to add more support in future. I'm a bit annoyed that they've taken all my gun attachments off me, but that's a different story. But I can forgive them, after all it is a 4-year-old game. Unlike Back 4 Blood, which is only, what, a year old, and they've already dropped support today, which is really annoying. But again, who cares? World War Z was always the better game. No offence. So that is the Horde mode XL running at medium plus settings with an uncapped frame rate at a screen refresh at 60 Hz, which is perfectly fine. But what about if you wanted to cap at 40 FPS? So my capture card won't let me capture at a locked 40, so I have got out my camera and we are just going to film it. And having played this at 30 FPS on Ultra and playing it now at medium settings at 40, it is not a locked 40, it is dipping a little bit. It is, however, much more playable. 40 frames a second does a great job of getting us out of that 30 frames, because quite honestly, it is kind of horrible now that I've seen it again. I've not played at 30 frames a second since I played on PS4, basically, and 40 just looks much better. It's much more fluid, the animation's just much nicer, and like I say, it is dipping a little bit, but dipping from 40 into the 30s is much nicer than dipping from 60 into the 30s. You know, it's a much lower range. It is kind of a shame that Valve didn't put a FreeSync display on this, because that would have been absolutely killer. But again, like I say, it's not going to be a locked 40. Here I am on an XL wave, and we are mostly in the 30s most of the time when the XL waves come. But again, like I say, it is very playable. I've played this game now, I don't know, many hours now on the deck just to get this little bit of footage for you, and I ended up playing to around 20, 22 about 3 or 4 times because I just got that involved in it. It's a great game. I highly recommend this game, and yes, the deck is great. The deck is definitely a next-gen console or a PC or both. And just for good measure, I thought I'd throw in some of the regular Horde mode into here just to see if the performance difference was much different. And on the medium settings, I think in general we are getting a much higher frame rate most of the time. But again, like as you can see, when the action gets a bit heavy, then you are going to drop a little bit. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Do all that stuff that other people say, I can't be bothered, and I'll catch you next time.